And as restorative justice people, I think that when we talk about anybody doing work, how are we dealing with our own trauma and how are we inputting that into situations and circumstances, right? How are we dealing with the fact that we have these colonized parts of us? So much so that we can take and extract information from communities, put them in books and tell those communities you can't use that word anymore, and not pay those communities. But the taking constant extraction of indigenous communities and the spaces that the places that they constantly given us. The restorative exists because of indigeneity and the ways community governance, like from my point of view, right? Mm-hmm. The ways that they work and the ways that community governance came about. And in my lineage, the court systems had this because indigenous people were being stolen. They were being taken and they weren't coming back. And so my elders were like, let me show you this process because we want our people back. And so a lot of my heart is just really broken over the fact that when I walk into places, people tell me, you can't do this or you can't do that. You can't say this in a circle. You can't say that in a circle. That's not the way it goes. You have to make sure people feel this and feel that. And I'm just like, you're asking me to police myself. Mm. And is that what circle really is? Is that what this work really is? And so within that process, just like understanding, having this constant conflict of like, I don't think I can exist in these two spaces. For me, I can't exist in an institutional space and do this work because I feel like it pillages me. It takes from my spirit. Yeah. And spirit is such a big part of the work that when you bring spirit into a room, people don't recognize it.
Yeah. I think a lot about people who are looking to do restorative justice work within the context of institutions, in your case, schools. And what I often say to folks is, I don't think that restorative justice can be practiced institutionally, right? Like we're trying to fit circle practices into very rigid boxes. And that doesn't mean that we shouldn't, as individuals within those spaces, embody restorative ways of being to the extent possible. There are just limitations that we're going to run up against whenever we are working within those systems that aren't built for relationships and humans to thrive, right? Schools and most institutions are built for capitalistic outcomes, right? Products, whether they're test scores or widgets or, whatever service we're providing. Those are what those institutions are built for. People talk about, as a school, we want to do restorative justice work. We want to embody these values. And like, those are great aspirational things to say, but the foundations of why your organization exists are not those things. And so just be aware of that as you're going about trying to embody this work, because there are very real limitations that you're going to run up against. And if you don't explicitly acknowledge that to the people who you are working with, and while you're communicating what restorative justice is, they're going to see the hypocrisy and they're going to be like, one, well, this isn't going to work here because of XYZ reason, or two, like, that seems like it's in opposition to why this school exists. So what are we doing? And if you're articulating a harm reduction approach, I think it goes over a lot better. But that's just my perspective from like the things that I've experienced. We jumped forward a little bit into like where you've exited doing this work explicitly within the context of schools, and we lost the part where like you did get in touch with the roots of this work in that invitation. And so I'm curious what parts of that experience you wanted to share.
Right. You can go there, right? What was special about the experience was that in one day, you learn people gave you the gift of their stories. And that's the most sacred thing that I think that people can give you. And it's something I had never seen before. I had never experienced before. And lineage, who are your peoples? To have to answer that question, where are you from? And then to be brought to a space where people say, this is okay. It's okay for us to do this, where all you see are dark peoples in the room. You see, and they're doing this. And I had never been exposed to that before, not in sports, not in art, not in the way that it was here. And a holding of the history and understanding how the medicine wheel is in relationship to ontological mapping, how that is in relationship to us, and how special we are as relatives. Like all of us are relatives, and me understanding like, man, we're all people. We all belong with each other, and we just are figuring out how to be with each other. And I used to explain to like some of the students, I think conflict is a way for us to be wanting to be in love with each other, but we don't know how. So we fight because we don't know how to be close to each other. And that's the only way we know how to be close to each other. So it taught me how to be close. How to be close to people without being in conflict.